Hello and welcome to the Amplifier Podcast, the show where the best in business discuss how you can grow your business best. I'm Wyatt McPherson, I produce this show, and this week our host Don Cooper is speaking with Susan Gilbert for her final of 3 episodes with us. Susan is a best-selling author, a top 100 marketing influencer, and someone who loves to help other entrepreneurs create foundational material in the form of major market books. Don and Susan discuss business leaders achieving a higher purpose, why entrepreneurs should be writing books, and how all of this can help you and your business grow to newer and greater levels. It is an amazing conversation, so make sure you check out our other 2 episodes with Susan and subscribe so you don't miss any in the future. With all of that said, though, I truly do hope that you enjoy this episode of the Amplifier Podcast.
I learned a lot, again, just this last 4 years of really focusing on my entrepreneurial journey was, I need the structure, but I don't need to be the structure.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so
yes.
Dan Sullivan has this this book, and he's got a major market book out now with Ben Hardy, but inside of the strategic coach program, there was a section of training that we did where he wrote the book, the small book that was a workshop book called Who Not How. And to me, the combination of understanding my Kolbe index and then thinking through who not how, and another concept that they have called unique ability, I got really clear on what my purpose was.
Wonderful.
And then I got really clear on that, everything else that isn't my purpose, that's an opportunity to create jobs for the right people who love doing that stuff.
Yeah.
And so the reason that I can envision having 4 or 5 companies with different collaborations, because I'm not going to do the follow that process or manage or set that project up. I'm going to lay out, here's my vision for what I want it to be. Here's the experience I want customers to have. Here's the different value that I want us to deliver. Here's what it looks and feels like. Now go do it.
Yeah. And isn't it a lovely thing? When I had the cafes, I had 5 locations and 55 employees. And now I have 1 full-time employee and a lot of freelancers that I bring in as needed for my projects. And my 1 full-time person, she's been with me for 12 years now. But it always makes me feel good as an entrepreneur that my work is helping to support other people's work.
Absolutely.
And so for you to have the vision to have more than the 2 businesses and have these ideas, and the plan that you can do it so that you have the idea, you have the vision, you can be in that creative space, and then there's other people that can do the deliverables. That's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, I went from feeling like I was constrained with my own time and effort and capability to feeling completely unconstrained. And now it's just really, I don't worry about the how part of all. I mean, I know, hey, we need an operations team, we need finance people. My assistant manages me and keeps me organized. She's a really high fact finder follow through in Kolbe, and I'm not a high follow through on Kolbe. So she organizes my calendar and helps me prioritize so I can stay in my creative zone as much as possible. And to me, it's exhilarating now because I can see where we can go as we just get more and more. Now, is it all a bed of roses? No. As you work with your team, you also got to get them to realize that they don't need to do everything, and they need to hone and gradually get their place into their sweet spot in the business, and that's what we want. We don't want jack of all trades, masters of none. I want a team of specialists.
Yes.
who are awesome, and make yourself irreplaceable if you want, because you're so darn good at IT or at podcast publishing or at video, whatever it is.
Yes.
And just be like the best in the company at that. And that's not what most companies encourage people to do, right?
Yeah.
But I can see it's fun.
Yeah, with Dan Sullivan's book, Who Not How, what's really interesting is the book, and it's a gift book, as I mentioned earlier, a gift book that I published back when nobody was self-publishing, and it's 4-color hardback, dust jacket, embossed. I mean, it is like the hardest thing, but again, I'm creative. I can do this. I went out and did it. And I thought that when I wrote it, it was a book that women would buy for themselves and give to other women.
Right.
And that did happen. And one of the women that it was given to was the executive director of the Leadership Academy for the San Diego Unified School District, which had 250 schools. She bought 250 copies because a woman had given her a copy. I said, what are you going to do with all these books? And she said, I'm going to gift a copy to each principal at the first in-house conference because we're going to go through a lot of change this year. Right. And I was like, whoa, that isn't who I thought would buy this book. They took it back into the schools, and the elementary schools still to today, because that was 20 years ago, use it for character development. But nice. what is asked in the Land of I Can is ask what, not how, not when, just what. What is it that makes your heart soar? What is it that's your dream? Ask what, not how, not when.
Yeah, something that was really, it was about 2 years ago where I went through a process of understanding my purpose, and I stretched that out to my purpose for the next 25 years, and I simplified it down to a number. Believe it or not, the number is just a reminder of the people behind that number. My purpose is to help people. Period. I want to help a lot of people in a lot of different ways over the next 25 years. But specifically, my purpose in helping people is 654, or actually 6 and 5 to the power of 4. My 6 is I want to give a life to my kids, my wife, and my mother that I didn't have growing up, and that give them freedom and security and a life that is memorable. And then my 5 is 5,000 to the power of 4. So over the next 25 years, I want to create a group of companies that create jobs for 5,000 innovator amplifier team members and their families, so that they can be tremendously secure and happy and have a place where they're feeling tremendously successful. And then I want to help 5,000 entrepreneurs reach their vision, 5,000 salespeople become #1 top performers in their space, and I want to help 5,000 industrial companies improve their safety, productivity, and cost effectiveness, and also reach 0 injuries per year. That's my thing. And so once I explain to people what my purpose is, and I'm really clear on this, when someone says, "Hey, do you want to start selling crab apples?" No, it's not my purpose, right? Yep. And but if someone says, "Hey, let's develop an app with AI for industrial safety," yes. Let's develop some new tools and training to help salespeople become more effective. Yes. And so, it may seem a little bit unconnected, but it's connected in here in terms of my purpose.
Well, it's clarity. You have clarity. Right? Yeah.
And so I always, whenever I'm, and as an entrepreneur, you've always got 1,000 ideas, and you're always presented with 1,000 ideas. And so my litmus test against whatever new things that are popping up or I get invited into, it's compared to 654. How does this fit into 654?
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. That's great.
Yeah. But that was so foundationally directive for me that I can now make every decision on, does this help me create more employment for team members? And when I say employment, my goal with my companies as I create and grow more and help them grow is I want these to be long-term, secure places for people to be successful. And I remember a number of years ago, I had a young employee who I had just had a new truck delivered, and it had all kinds of bells and whistles, and it was and it was lots of new features in this truck. And we were loading up trucks to go to an industrial job site. And this thing, he said, nothing's like a spaceship. And I said, yeah, I said, but it's just some creature comforts, because I was always on the road at the time. And I don't know how the conversation went, but, I said, we got into the purpose of the business, and he said, well, he was a field technician, and his perspective was that if you were a business owner, your purpose was, it's all about money. And I was like, I thought, what an interesting perspective, totally misguided. But is money important? Yeah, but it's a tool. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Right. I'm my purpose, at least what I'm trying to get out of my own, the piece of my entrepreneurial journey. And I think a lot of entrepreneurial journeys is just freedom to fill your purpose, freedom and of time to fill your purpose, freedom to have great relationships, and freedom of money that can be the tool to make those other things happen. But the purpose part, I think, is so enlightening, so purposeful.
Yes.
when you get clarity on that, it's almost like, I know exactly where I'm going. I know exactly what I'm doing. My vision is clear. Even if you have setbacks, exactly. It's almost like you have an energy that is self-fulfilling.
Yes. Beautifully said, Don.
Yeah.
Beautifully said.
You don't have to sell me on a book, because I for me, I found it to be unleashing a creative process. And I also know I'm a verbal thinker, so I love video and I love podcasts because it's how I think out loud. But there's probably a lot of entrepreneurs out there who have different styles of communicating. Maybe they've got self-limiting beliefs. What is it that would hold entrepreneurs back from actually starting, creating, finishing a book?
I think one of the biggest things that I see is if they aren't driven by a purpose, like all the things that we've been talking about, if they're in that place where they don't know. I mean, a big joke in the inner circle is that, since we're talking about education, is that they said, Susan, how in the world do you coach millionaires and billionaires about what to do with their lives when you only have a high school education? And it comes down to that creativity. So if they don't have somebody who can be their guide, they get in their own way. And the fears that come up are things like, well, I don't have time, or I'm afraid I can't do this. I don't think I could write a book, or what if people will laugh at me? I mean, when you reach a certain level in your life, there's a perception that you don't want to tumble down the other side of the mountain. In other words, that you want to make sure that what you're doing reaches a certain standard. Right. So it's like mindset stuff that gets in the way. And as a part of that, there's nothing like having a project that just to distract yourself and to say, I'm going to go work in the yard, or I'm going to go play a round of golf. And it's a distraction. So I think one of the biggest things that stops an entrepreneur from writing a book is just the distractions. I mean, we carry this little distraction called a phone in the palm of our hands all day long. And it's part and parcel of that, to get back to the passion side of things, is they really haven't defined the book position. In other words, why are they doing this? Who is it going to help? What's the outcome going to be? Like somebody told them, oh, you should write a book, but they really don't have that defined reason. Well, why should they?
Yeah.
And then also, let's say they're past those things, but they don't have a clear path. It's kind of like if we're going to go across the country, we're going to plug in our GPS on our phones in our car. We got a clear path. We've been talking about clarity throughout this time together. But if they don't have a clear writing plan, because there's a specific plan to follow. And if you don't have that plan, then you're just going to be all over the place and be taking detours and being stuck in little towns and not knowing how to get back on the freeway again and get going where you want to go. So I think those are the top level reasons why entrepreneurs fail to publish their books.
Wonderful. Well, I can't wait to start a project. I'm not going to overcommit, but I'm going to tell you that you and I are going to do a book together. As I outside of, because I didn't really care about a major market book. Well, it wasn't my like that wasn't enough for me to say, hey, I'm going to do a hardcover, that I want to be an Amazon bestseller, New York Times. That wasn't really, and that didn't get me powered up. What got powered up is a foundational sort of existential. I want to share something of great value that will also be meaningful for me.
Yeah.
That's beyond helping people, with here's a really great sales process that will help you succeed. Those all fit into my purpose in little pieces. But I'd like to write a major market book for me, to be quite honest.
Well, that's why I told the quick story version of the book that got me into this is called The Land of I Can, an adventure in life. And that had a purpose. I thought it would be for women.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a woman gave it to a woman, went into the school systems, but that was the pivotal piece that has helped me help so many other people, because people get stuck. The first land in the land of I Can is the land of apathy, where you're bored. Then the land of fear,
the land of
afraid to move forward.
This will be really strange, but and whenever I decide to start this project with you, this will be funny. But your book is The Land of I Can. My major market book title, that we'll eventually work on, is called The Man with No Land Finds Home.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
So there's a lot in there. There's a whole bunch in there, but that's the title of the book.
Yeah. And what's really interesting, Don, is that you're writing it because it's coming from that deep inside.
Oh, it's deep in my soul. It's deep
in your soul. And you have no idea where it's going to land. Just like my book. Like we're not doing it because you're going to go out and, build speaking engagements on it, although that might end up being the reason, but it's coming from deep inside your essence. And once it goes out, there's a reason why that's calling to you. There's a reason why it wants to come out whenever you're ready and you have the time to be able to do that. And once it comes out, boy, just hang on. Just like my guy that we were talking about, flying through life. We had no idea when we put that together that he would be where he is today, where he is a leader in aviation. He's a thought leader in an industry that was just fueled by his passion.
Susan, I love talking with you. Fantastic.
Same here, Don. This has been lovely.
How can people reach out to you and start working with you?
Well, if they want to take a look at my website, susangilbert.com, they'll be able to see the video that we've been talking about on and off that was filmed in Africa. And then messengersonamission.com is a great place where the download of the parable that will tell the story of one man who decided to strike out and try something new. And if either of those things resonate, both websites have contact information.
Wonderful. Susan, it's a pleasure. I can't wait to talk again.
Thank you so much for having me on your podcast and allowing us to have this conversation together.
It was an absolute joy. Really, thank you very much.
You're welcome. I appreciate you.
And there you have it. Thank you everybody so much for listening to this episode of the Amplifier Podcast. If you would like to get in touch with Don or Susan and discover more of what both of them can do for you, then you can always find both of their links in the description of this episode. We did 3 episodes in total with Susan, so definitely make sure you go and check out the other 2. And make sure you leave a 5-star rating. It truly does help us out a lot. And be sure to subscribe so you never miss any future episodes. With all of that said, though, I truly do hope that you've enjoyed this episode of the Amplifier Podcast, and we shall see you next time.